A well-known definition of insanity is doing the same things and expecting different results. It's amazing and interesting how easy it is for human beings to live like this, to expect improvements but not changing their daily reactions. They expect their finances, their health, their marriage, life will be better, but they remain doing the same old things. And logic teaches us that if I do things and the results are this that we see, and I remain doing them, the results will be the same tomorrow. That is intelligence, logic. God says in His words in Haggai chapter 1 verse 5, "Now therefore thus says the Lord of hosts, consider your ways." In other words, God gave the human being the capacity for analysis, a power that animals, at most, do not have, and when they have it, it is minimal. You know that there are animals which are hunters, predators, that they analyze the movements of their prey. Filled with one objective, to hunt, kill, and eat. Their ability is limited to that, but the human being has a greater ability to evaluate, analyze, even themselves, to consider what is happening, what happened, what will happen, the future. God gave us this capacity that only He has, above us, only He has. But unfortunately, few people use this ability, especially to evaluate the course of their lives. We see, for example, in the story of Gideon, which you can read in Judges chapter 6, that the people of Israel in their time had done evil before God, disobeyed God, and had exchanged God for the enemy's gods. As incredible as it may sound, you see the God of your enemies, and later you want to adopt the gods of your enemies which did not protect them. And you want to abandon the God who gave you victory. But was exactly what the people of Israel did. They sinned against God, they abandoned God, they raised altars for Baal in Israel. And what happened? As they themselves pushed God away from Israel, so God fulfilled their desire and left them alone. God doesn't abandon people. He just does what they want. If they don't want Him to interfere in their lives, He won't interfere. He respects you. If you don't want Him to interfere in your life, then He won't. You need to understand this. When a tragedy happens, when somebody enters a school and kills innocent children, or when a hurricane, earthquake happens, a tragedy, soon someone will ask, where was God? Well, God was in the same place that you left Him when all was going well. In the same place. If you leave God out of your life in good times, why do you want Him, out of the blue, to interfere, to invade your life in bad times, to defend you? It doesn't make sense. So God fulfills our desires. And that in Israel, He fulfilled the desires of the Israelites. And then He left them with their own gods. Then what happened next? The God of their enemies did nothing for the people of Israel, did not protect them, and then the enemies came and destroyed everything, and every year they would invade, raid the land, especially in the time of harvest. Before they harvested the land, they would raid everything, and the following year the same thing will happen. The harvest will come, the enemies will come and destroy it all. And that's how it happened for 1, 2, 3. It took 7 years for someone to stop and say, this is not working. 7 years. They could stop on the second one, or on the third, maybe, max. But it took 7 years for people to see, this is not working. Then someone did something different. Someone cried out to God. What they were not doing for 7 years, they started to do. They cried out to God, God, help us, rescue us. We are at risk. Someone returned to God. Then God sent help. First a prophet, then the angel spoke to Gideon, then showed to Gideon that they needed to change. Guess what? Guess what? Fill this gap. For things to change, they had to change their behaviors. Yes, you got it right. They had to change, to do something different in order to have different results. And what did they have to do differently? God began to cause a commotion in Israel through Gideon, starting with the fall of the altar of Baal. God spoke to Gideon, you go to your father's house and you bring down the altar of Baal. You will tear down, you set it on fire, and then you will build on a higher place for everybody to see a new altar. An altar for me, my altar, and you will sacrifice the second bull of your father for me. And later, I'll tell you what to do. He started by causing a disruption. That's how changes happen. Changes happen when you start to disrupt old practices, customs, routine that have been causing their past to remain. God changes a person's life when they agree to break with the old practices. I'm not going to do this anymore. Enough, it's over. I won't do this anymore. When the person says, enough, it's over, they start to cause a disruption in their lives. And then what happens? The waters start moving. They start to make the dust rise. When the dust rises, get ready. Many will rise against you. As it happened when Gideon destroyed the altar of Baal, the men of his city, village, came to kill him. So that's why many, they don't take this disruptive action that is necessary to change their lives, because they are afraid of the consequences. Someone will comment, will criticize, someone will stand against them. It's like you open a can of worms. But if you don't open it, if you don't do something different, you won't have different results. God changed the story of Israel when Gideon first changed his way of thinking and started to have disruptive actions towards the practice that was happening for 7 years. He made the dust rise, and then different things started to happen. And if you want to change a story, here is the recipe. The recipe never changes. It's the recipe for the cake. Stop doing the same things. Ask God for direction to show you what you must do. Be courageous. Don't be afraid of being disruptive, on disrupting old practices, habits, on upsetting someone, stepping on someone's toes. Don't worry. If you want to change your life, you have to have this courageous action as Gideon had. The good news is, when you do this, the results will speak for themselves. The results will be your reward. You had the courage to do differently, so here is your reward, the success you've been waiting for. If today's video helped you and you know someone that could benefit from it, share it with them, and if you haven't subscribed to the channel, you may do so now. See you later.